everyone, and welcome to the Blood and Pigment Podcast. My name is Garrett Swader, and I'm here with Dan.
Ahoy.
And Joseph.
Hello there.
So in this episode, we're going to go through our normal everyday or every month stuff. Hobby desk, reports of glory and shame, peek behind the curtain a little bit, some blog news, and for our main segment this time, we are talking about lists that people have sent us. We're calling this segment List Doctor.
I'd like to propose calling it the List Surgeon, please.
The List Surgeon. That's a better name for it, but
more historically better.
But yeah, we got 3 lists off of people just messaging me on Discord. I sent a message out asking for new players or players that just want us to look at their list to see if we can make it a little bit better. Got some good responses from that, and we're going to go check those out.
Should be fun.
Yeah. And for Hobby Desk, though, Joseph, what have you been up to lately?
Well, you can start ridiculing me now because I finished 1 miniature out of 100 for my yearly goal. And I didn't really so much finish it as I needed to take pictures of it, so I decided it was done.
You're on the board, though, so
I'm on the board. I've colored 1 box.
You're on your way.
We're 2 months in, you're on the board. That's good.
It's terrifying. I have a bunch almost done. And actually, I just got a whole box of test print minis from some of the new sculpting, which is making me real excited. I'm looking at 9 brand new sculpts on my little ancient priming board that I need to paint up right away. I want to get some I don't think anybody's painted these all yet, so it'll be the first versions of them painted. I know Firelock needs some painted images of them. Some of them are just the characters that just got released the last couple of weeks. The cook and bosun and sharp-eyed lookout and standard bear drummer. Excited about those. But I got some new unannounced stuff as well that I need to get some paint on and give some feedback to the sculptors. So I have hobby goals. I have hobby stuff in progress. I just have no tangible pigment colored minis yet.
Yeah, sounds good. I've seen those minis and they look awesome.
Yeah.
Got anything else?
All the same crap I said last week. It's a month. I haven't done anything except for try to keep. I've had a busy month, other personal life stuff as well, and trying to catch up on the blog projects. So, no.
Oh, okay. Well, I just noticed that you had a note here on the notes about a house by a certain.
Oh yeah. Riley, who has been helping us out at Blood and Pigment and on board, and the team here has a 3D printer and has been printing every once in a while prints a thing. I have no patience for 3D printing or money to do it. But he generously printed out one of Jason's Dutch houses he 3D designed. Jason's been doing some awesome STL work, and his Dutch house, really cool. Designed from a picture of an original house. Has some Dutch flavor. It's nice and really nice size, and Jason has a really good eye and feel for how to design so it prints well without wasting material, and it's functional. The way he had the roof connect to the body of the house is really nice. So yeah, I primed that last couple days and want to hopefully quickly paint that up. It's terrain month for Blood and Pigment or Great Pirate Paint Off, so I need to get a terrain entry in there too. So yeah, thanks for a reminder there. Check out all of Jason's Dutch, or all of his STLs. I think I linked him in the latest paint contest article. He has a whole, I think it's on Colt 3D. Is that what it's called? Something like that. Weird.
Yeah, that's the website he puts his stuff on. We can maybe, if you're listening to this on YouTube, we might be able to put a link to his stuff in the description. So
nice little STLs, useful bits for Blood and Plunder players and Oak and Iron. How about you, Garrett?
I am ahead of schedule on my resolutions. I have, I think, 18 minis done right now. I'm working on 8 more. What I've been doing is I've just been painting at work over lunch, like not during my work hours. Although on some days I could be doing that because like it's been kind of slow lately. Things have been picking up though. Yeah. But yeah, I'm getting a lot of work done painting over lunch, and that has helped me keep up with my resolution so far. And then I've also been doing terrain. We had a big terrain day at the game store that I frequent the other day, and we got 10 tree stands, I think, done,
Nice.
completed.
Love that.
Yeah, that was very nice. Palm trees and a base that is very bushy and jungly, like I think you guys have seen mine that I made like that. I
Those are
just
nice.
recreated, or I showed them the process of how to make it, and we just kind of assembly lined it pretty well and got them all done in just a couple of hours. So that was awesome.
Got to reference Jason's article about palm terrain on our blog. He has one called Top Recommendations for Palm Trees and Jungle Wargaming Scatter Terrain, where he got pictures from people all around the community. And if you're looking to make some terrain, he has some good pointers on how to do that quick and effective. And that can be a huge game changer as far as how your game looks and how it feels, and how much you enjoy playing your hobby, and how much people stop and look at your game and maybe get interested too. So terrain is a worthwhile endeavor, but it is kind of sometimes feels like an annoyance because you're focusing on your miniatures and stuff, but getting a little bit together is worthwhile.
It is. It really is.
It really is. Especially anything that makes the game look good on a table is going to draw people in, and it just feels good.
Mm-hmm.
And on another note for my resolutions, I did finish one book. So that is done. I have 2 left to finish. I finished the Cromwell's Western Design Jamaica book, and I'm moving on to the Buccaneers realm. So
Nice. That's fun.
gonna
Better than
dive into that and hopefully get that finished in time for me to get a 3rd book in this year. So
I really enjoyed that book. Maybe it was just I read it on vacation and I was just like sitting out in the sun. It was just reading a book. It was super fun. But I think it's really just a good book too. It really gives you a feel for that kind of height of the 1670s, I think, or 80s.
yeah.
Dan, you've been crushing brushes, right?
Yeah, so don't want to toot my own horn here, but I checked off one of my resolutions. I finished my painting backlog. So if I let sit over Christmas, I crushed it and got it all done. So now I'm on to part 2, and that is working on the photo minis for the Northern War book. I have all the stuff that I needed out of plunder kits made and primed. I just need to paint them. But my beloved Army Painter brush finally died, and gracious enough to go ahead and replace it for me. And it got here a few days ago. I used the Army Painter brush line. I was waiting on a base coat brush because it works the best with speed paints, in my opinion. So have that done, and we just need to get those punched out, done. And then I have some STLs for some stuff that is not represented currently that I have to purchase and then have printed out and then put on plunder bases and paint for that. So lots of cool, fun stuff. But yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. The soldier and militia minis are going to paint up just fine, but I got some Polish infantry, some Cossacks on horseback, stuff like that has to be printed and then brought in line to look like plunder minis.
Should be fun.
It's very fun. I love the way they look. Just trying to source stuff because everybody can find winged hussars and whatnot. Those models are easy, so I was trying to find stuff that is more difficult to source. There can be a little section to say, hey, here is where you can go and snag these and highlight some really talented historical sculptors. At least until Mike finally says, hey, we'll make some. Send me some references.
Mm-hmm. Always good to have the guys that do the niche little things in the community.
Because I was talking to him, he said I'd really like to, but we busy, and I said I get it. I just wanted to clear you that it's okay if I grab a few, and he said it's totally fine. Go grab what you need, and it'll be good. I always run it by him first before I do anything else.
Good.
All right. So, any reports of glory and shame? Since we'll go and segue into that, looks like you got one, Joseph. You want to tell us about your glory or shame this past week?
I missed 2 of my weekly meetups. I was out of town a couple of weeks, but last week we did a amphibious. Everybody did amphibious take and hold, we did amphibious show last week, and then I was gone, and then everybody played amphibious without me there, and all the problems that we talked about on the show kind of happened. Like what? Whoa, no. So I was determined to let's do it one more time, and it worked. It worked really well. The take and hold is fun. The take and hold, you have an objective right, kind of at the water line, and both sides start pretty far back, so it's really balanced, pretty good. So all of our games were pretty. There's 3 games. We had one just really long table with 3 different games going on, but we had all the table wore mats, so everything looked like it was one huge game. Looked really cool. I put a little short up on YouTube. You can see everybody playing. And that night, all the attackers won. All the people coming from the sea ended up winning.
Woohoo! Love that.
What did I play? I played. Oh, the next to me, there was the Caribs with their poison arrows coming in on Riley's English. That was a bloody battle. Hardly anybody left at the end. It was insane.
Dang.
Yeah, it was bloody. Then just this week, I played just a simple land game, 150 point land encounter, and I was play testing some new Buccaneers, and that was pretty fun. Play a new unit for the Buccaneers that was kind of fun to mess around with, and a bunch of new flavorful commanders which have extra spice. So really good game there. But I guess the glory that I won, but shame because I can't remember the details. So Rock Brasiliano is one of the new commanders, though. He's kind of a colorful guy, and he ended up playing really well. Maybe up his cost a little bit, but maybe not. He can be just randomly drunk. Not his whole force, but just him. So he's kind of undercosted right now. But that's all playtesting stuff. But those were my games for the month. Amphibious 200 point and 150 point land game. But fun games both. How about you guys?
So I got one. Pretty proud of it. Was testing my Adepticon list, inspired by Josh Shivak's hilariously kitted out 6 rate from last year. The not playing Spanish Mission Garrison, but he was playing it on a 6 rate. I was like, oh, that sounds kind of cool. So I adopted something kind of similar. We ran 2 games. The second game was Escort, and I successfully zigzagged my ship up the board because I read the section on advanced maneuvers. You should read that if you're going to the tournament. If you don't, you do so at your peril. So I was able to sail upwind very well. He grappled me as I was about to go off, and this is where the shame comes in because I had read the rules wrong and thought that I could just move 2 inches, off because I was a size 4 ship dragging a size 3 ship. Turns out you could only drift, but after going back and looking at it, I was going to drift off the board anyway and escape. So really, really silly, but shame for not remembering the rules correctly.
Yeah, dragging is weird.
Yeah, but it was a lot of fun because it was the last ditch effort. We were fighting over the back deck, and I was like, I think I'm going to get away. And he said, I think you're going to get away too. Because he did not have a lot of guys to chew through. And I had lots of guys that he had to meat grind his way through. And he was doing good. He was putting up a fight. But he could not prevent me from escaping off the board.
Yeah, it's a hard one. Once that they get past you, you have to grapple them or block them physically.
Mm-hmm.
But it is pretty hard. You have to go straight upwind, and you must attack a lot of times. I've done that too, but it's not easy.
Yep.
You have to have units
Everybody on the
ready to
ship's
go.
got sailors, so everybody can tack. If someone gets shaken, I got another unit that can do it.
But if you fail once, you're just screwed.
That's what Fortune's for. I didn't spend a single fortune on saving any saves or anything. And I don't think I rolled. I think I had to fortune once, but everybody's got sailors or expert sailors, so that was part of the plan when I built the list.
Or just bring a sloop where you can roll 2 dice to see, and pick the best one.
That's easy, yeah.
It's more impressive to see a 6 right zigzag up the board. It's really funny too. We were sitting here giggling because he'd pull over, he shot some cannons, nothing really happened, and then I'd be like, all right, you shot, so I'm safe. I'm going to go ahead and tack now, and then he just watched as I Congo lined up the board in my giant 6 rate.
I did a battle report using the exact same combo, 6 straight, going straight up the board, tacking all the way. It's quite silly, but it's dangerous, but if you can make it happen, it's fun.
In the previous game, we introduced wearing too, and you went, "Oh, that's a thing." I said, "Yep, that's a thing. It can help. It's great. Love it. Read your advanced maneuvers, kids."
Video coming 2028. Blood and Pigment. Just kidding. Sooner than that.
It's in the queue.
Yeah, I went back and looked at mine. And I do want to talk about it if that's okay. My amphibious game.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
That was a really awesome game. It was really fun. I did Dutch West India Company. And I did that Barco de Wingo with the chasers and the swivels in the front. with rowers, and then I did a Piragua with some Interplogue and Dutch Militia in it. So I only had 2 guys getting on land, and I just used the Barco as just a death machine because I could maneuver it really easily with the rowers, and then I just pointed at anything I wanted to delete and did 8 grape shot dice plus 6 swivel dice.
That'll do it.
It was brutal. Some of the range was pretty extreme, so it wasn't. But a couple times I just like overwhelmed the unit with all these dice. I went up against Brian, who's a really good player, but he he did like 50 French Canadian militia, 4.6 shoot, elusive, and just had a gun line all the way across the table of all these muskets. He outnumbered me, and I only had 1 unit with muskets. So I had to rush in there. But yeah, I just landed at one side of the board. So a lot of his units weren't able to target me very well. It was extreme range but I started in the middle. So he had to kind of cover more of the board. And then I just went off to one side really quickly and landed and used Interplogue to kind of rush up, soften them up with that massive grape shot and swivel gun barrage, and then hit them with Interplogue and just steamrolled.
Sounds like you just
units.
rolled up and said absolutely not and just dumped it all on a poor unit of Frenchmen.
I did. It felt really bad for those. It was like 2 units and some trees, and just they got hit hard. And that it worked pretty good. If his dice had been better as far as shooting me from the flanks, could have been more balanced. But I did have a pretty good win just by focusing on one part of the line and trying to play to the strengths of the units that I had. But that Barco of Death left an impression upon poor Brian.
Barco of Death. I love that.
It was a lot of points because you have to have a whole unit and you have to have a bunch of
Barco Muerto.
Yes, yeah. To reload, you got to get 6 guys to reload your 2 medium cannons, and then 4 guys to reload your 2 swivel guns. So you have to have a unit of at least 10. But since they aren't on land, they are hard to want to target them from the enemy because you have even closer threats from the guys jumping on land. So I didn't really need to up them very much beyond what I really needed. And then I had to have a whole unit of rowers to control the ship. But I could just row the ship right up to that water line, 3 inches away, like you're supposed to, as close as I can, and then just kind of puts the aim. I needed the rowers so I could aim it because the arc of fire through the front of the ship is super narrow. But with total control of your aiming with the rowers, with all those dice, and without getting shot at because they're too far away, they were able to do their job in a gruesome fashion. It worked really well. So if you want to make enemies and make people not come back to your Blood and Plunder group, you can do that.
Well, you were playing against a list that had 56 shoot models for 4 points, so
I thought that was pretty dirty, so I didn't feel bad.
Yeah.
I think this is 2 meta lists hitting each other, so I think that's fine. This isn't you doing this against somebody that walks up and say, it's my first game.
Right. But it was fun to see that newer ship kind of special role there. But you could do it with another ship too. I mean, you could do it. It just costs a little bit more. The Barco, you only have to pay for 1 pair of cannons, but you get to shoot both of them. Where if you use a sloop, you can do 3 medium guns, but you're paying for more cannons. And you can still row it, but then you have a bigger arc of fire, so that's better. But the Barco Luengo is just really affordable, especially when you're trying to get guys on the land as well. That worked really well. It was a really interesting game.
Cool. Yeah, I have one thing other than my terrain day that we did. I had my 3rd league game with my Maroons, and I had Colonel Cujo as my commander, and then I think I had 3 units of African warriors with muskets and 1 unit of lanceros, and I was against a guy that he's a more veteran player in our group, but he's still not. He's still a little more rusty with the rules and playing. He plays more often with me though, now that we're getting more consistent games in. So I'm definitely seeing improvement. But he had his French Buccaneer list, and I was able to get attacker with maroons, and I got the night.
Mm-hmm.
I made it
Scenario
nighttime,
condition.
and so that really affected the game more than you might think, because I was able to use skirmishers a lot to go into line of sight and then back out of line of sight.
Dirty.
It was one of those cases where I wanted to try it to see if that really or if I could utilize the night effectively.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the game too, I told him, if I had been playing this list, I would definitely have been more aggressive with the French shooters and really push forward to nullify that ability for me to just jump in, jump back out, as far as playing against the Maroons. So I think it was a good learning experience, and I got to play the Maroons in a different way, so that was cool. So that's what I've got.
You enjoying the Maroons so far?
I am. And another thing is Lanceros. If you have Lanceros in your list, sometimes you can really mess with somebody's head just by moving them around.
It's the real life terror. Yeah.
Yeah. It's
they
weird.
have fatigue before they start.
And that was another thing I told him too. I was like, don't be as afraid of these guys. They're not like they're good, but they're not that good. They're not just going to come up like a unit of 6 of these guys aren't just going to come up and delete a unit.
You say that, but it has happened.
Sometimes, but I'm just saying, don't play scared.
Yeah. I think one of the early tournaments, a list of all Lanceros won.
Oh, really?
It was a high-profile list, yeah.
Wow.
But
don't know about that. But that's a story for another time.
Indeed.
So, do we have any peek behind the curtain Firelock development stuff that we want to talk about?
Here's a couple things I'll try to rapid fire. Force Builder, a little bit of progress on it, some exciting developments. I've been kind of liaison with Tom Pace, who made the thing and is kind of back on board, pecking away at some improvements. A big thing that is in the works right now is trying to let people have accounts again. It's functional. It's not ugly. It's not pretty yet, but if you have the right special handy dandy link, which is not public yet, you can make your own account. Then you can have all your lists saved. You don't have to physically save that URL. And then when you have your list saved, other people can't mess with it. Once you're logged in, right now, if you make a list and save it, you can send it to somebody else and they can change it and save over it and kind of fill it up. It happened to some of our lists on the blog itself. We'll post a list and then it's possible for somebody to go in and just change it. So trying to stop that and let you collect your lists in a better system. And then exciting development on that front as well, in an effort to help make it more streamlined for playtesters to test some new things. We can toggle people's accounts from playtester to regular user, and then open up. I've programmed several. It's easy to program playtest lists into it, and then if you're logged in as a playtester, you can see, all right, here's this project, here's the stuff, and then you can mess around and build forces and print them out even before they're published. That's one of the blocks for playtesting. You have to process the whole document, look at it all, and try to put it together and scratch it out, Blood and Valor style. Low blow, sorry. Then another development along that line is we're trying to kind of change the face of the Force Builder, so you could publish rather than just save a list. So there would be like a front page that has recent or published lists. It would be uneditable at that point, but you can kind of say, here's a list I'm building, and people could see it and download it or grab it if they want, and you could favorite or like, or have some more interaction around people building lists rather than just having it be a tool. It could be more of a community meeting place and sharing place. So that's maybe a ways out yet. We talked about sculpting. sculpting continues to happen really quickly for some of the projects. Daniel and Emily and the other folks sculpting at Firelock have been doing really impressive work. You guys saw all those characters come out kind of as a surprise. I didn't know they were releasing them either. They just popped out. Oh, hello. I haven't seen some of them either. I've never seen that drummer boy or the standard bearer. But they got 5 characters all out all of a sudden available for purchase at a not inconsiderable price point, but that's okay. But they look real nice. So cool to see sculpting happening. Yeah, Mike sent me a box of miniatures. He said, I'm sending you a butt ton of miniatures. Like, okay. But there's no bases. But then I got this box. It's just this big locked up mass of printed miniatures with no bases wrapped in a piece of paper. It's like 125 miniatures of all random stuff. So I sorted them all out and sent them some to you guys. And is able to give some feedback on some of them, but most of them, they look really great. Really excited for kind of increased activity as far as new models go. Models really give the game life, and it's fun to have. It's fun to pull models from different sources, but to have a real line of miniatures and that everybody is kind of interacting with is fun. A Queen Annie miniature too. I'm not sure when it's going to come out. Mike didn't say I could talk about it, but didn't say I couldn't talk about it, so I'm going to. Legendary commander for the Maroons. High profile figure. Cool miniature kind of. She has their what's it called? Their special maroon horn in her hand and looking quite fierce. Some knives in her belt. That's gonna be a cool one. And finally, the Riser Buccaneers project. We were chatting last month, I think off the air, but about kind of different direction some of these projects could go and the focus kind of keep changing. But I think it's locked in. Riser Buccaneers is the project name. 1660s, 50s, 60s. Kind of the increased activity of the early Buccaneers around Jamaica after they took Jamaica from the Spanish. Christopher Ming's kind of leading that up. I know it's been talked about a bunch, but it's really solidified, drawing in some of the characters described in X Quinlan's Buccaneers of America. So some high-profile names that aren't in the game yet. Some big Buccaneer commanders and a couple tweaks to the Buccaneer factions. I think that will be really enjoyable for everybody. Plus another Dutch faction. Dan, you want to talk about that? We shouldn't give total details, but Dutch getting a new faction. How about that? When was the last time?
It has been very long, and when I saw the preview article, I immediately saw it and was like, "This needs to stay." And I almost bribed Mike with pipe tobacco to get it to stay.
I mean, nothing's set in stone yet, but there might be a new fun Dutch faction coming.
I cannot wait to play test it. I love it. It may become my new favorite faction. We'll just put it like that. If you hear loud wailing towards the end of the project, you'll know that it was cut, and I'm very upset.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not done until it's actually printed.
I may go on a hunger strike.
I feel like it's pretty locked in at this point, so that's exciting.
Yeah, as in with anything, Firelock announces take it with a grain of salt until it actually comes out. So
small business, small crew, and art-brained people at the helm sometimes makes for.
This one's pretty far in development, so I'm just saying that is a rule of thumb with anything. Firelock.
Get your hopes up is good because it's always going to be good and fun, but maybe not get your hopes on any certain thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Under the black flag or whatever. Yeah, the RPG.
Yeah. So news on the blog.
Quick rundown of things we've put up there. If you haven't been paying attention, details on the Adepticon tournaments. Got pages up for both of those, including the tournament packet. Main thing is 250 point sea, 200 point land. Got scenarios up there. We're going to do 5 scenarios on the list. We're going to randomly roll, I think, for the scenario. So you have kind of several different things you can't custom build too hard for your scenarios. Try to build a well-rounded list. All the Adepticon stuff is up there, and you can register your list if you're going to participate in the tournament. I strongly encourage you. You have to get your list looked at and pre-approved before the tournament. So better to do that now than the day before or the day of. so there isn't any surprises, or just want to make sure everybody has a nice legal list with no issues. So those forms are up there to submit your list there. Black Caesar article by Dan.
It is done. It is rounding out that'll be the last one that'll finish out the entirety of the Pirates nationality. After that, I'll probably start working on the last Buccaneers to kind of round out that flavor. It's good though.
Yeah, good. Nice and concise, not too long-winded like sometimes I go. So well done there, and nice.
It's one of the few mythological commanders, I would dare say, because we don't know a ton about him.
Semi. Painting contest articles up there. Ended January and did a People's Choice vote for top choices there. Had some really, really good top contenders. Congrats to Julian Nault for winning again. He's a great painter. He's just getting better. It's ridiculous. His Black Caesar was his top entry, so that's the one that won this time. But some other really great images up or work up there. Several posts that you can look at all there was like 130 140 commanders entered during January, and some really inspiring work. I'm working on a Wabanaki article that's almost done. Just need to get photography done for it. So that's one of the big native factions, really powerful and really diverse and really great factions. If you like natives, check out the Wabanaki, and I'll be publishing a faction review for that soon. Capture the Surgeon video is out on the YouTube channel as of this recording. As of when you listen to this, I just finished it last night. Got people checking it over, so should be a fun one. Amphibious Capture the Surgeon scenario, about 18-minute battle report. Blackbeard trying to get his surgeon, so that was kind of fun. In the shop, we got some new French coins for fortune points. If you like playing the French and want a fancy fortune token, we got some new French coins in that might be of interest. This month on the painting contest, we're looking at terrain and oak and iron, and I want to highlight Dexter's painting his terrain flash challenge. There's a special kind of category to participate in a competition to build one of the projects, a specific project, rocky snow terrain that he worked up in one of his videos. So check out his channel, or you can find a tab on Great Pirate Paint Off on the blog. That's the Plunder Den Terrain Challenge. He's going to give out some pieces of his own terrain, so you want to participate in that if you can. You'll get a nice piece of terrain that you made out of it. Cheap and easy technique. Cheap items and easy technique from Dexter's awesome channel. And you might get a chance at winning some of his cool terrain that he's made. So check out that portion of the painting contest. On to our main topic, the list surgeon.
Okay, yeah. So list surgeon, as I said earlier, we had 3 generous people send us lists that they want us to look at and pick apart and tell them if we think that we can make it better or more thematic or stuff like that. So we'll kind of break down what they gave us and then make suggestions based on the purpose that they gave us for the list. Like, for example, you could say, I want this to be a competitive list for a tournament, or I could say, I want this list to represent a Spanish treasure ship, or I want this list to be a Dutch force from New Amsterdam. Disclaimer, our suggestions are 100% our opinion. Your results may vary. So let's get into it.
And remember, this is a dice game. So while we can say, hey, this should work really well, sometimes your dice will decide that you don't get to have fun that night. So just keep that in mind.
I say it's a dice game on a regular basis when I play this game. Either I'm telling somebody else that it's a dice game, or I'm telling myself that it's a dice game. So, our first list, I'm going to go through. This is from Dread on Discord. If you're on Discord, you might see him say some stuff. This is a Native American list. This is Creek, and the commander is Emperor Brim. Emperor Brim has a 16-inch command range, 3 points. He has very inspiring, savvy, tactician, expert ambushers, and he is. I don't have his points in front of me,
I think he's
but I would imagine he's a larger point commander. Did you say something, Joseph?
I do think he's 30, maybe 20.
I was thinking he might be like 30 or 30 something.
Oh, look.
But then he also has a unit of warrior musketeers at 11 models.
32. By the way, that's another improvement I want to get on the force builders on the way to see your commander's cost after you built it. Right now it's invisible and it's kind of annoying. So that's
It is annoying, especially when you're going through a list and you want to say how many points he is, and you're like, well, I have to delete him, which deletes the rest of the list to see his points.
You can do it. You can just delete him, and then you can see him, and then you can just refresh, and it'll go back to the original version. But it's stupid. It should be right there. Well, it's happening.
Oh, okay. Well, anyway, second unit is going to be a core unit of Braves, and they are trained as well, 8 models. He also has a second unit of Braves, trained 8 models, and then an 8 model unit of Young Braves at inexperienced. And then he has a grizzled veteran. So this is a 4-unit force with an expensive commander and a grizzled veteran. So Dredd sent along a description for what he wants from this list. I'm just going to read that out right now. So list idea I have had for a while but never implemented. Curious what veteran players think. So this seemed like a good opportunity. Defensive style of play for this unique native build, Emperor Brim gives the Warrior Musketeers savvy, neutralizing their slow reload. So that means that he intends that Emperor Brim goes with the Warrior Musketeers. A 16-inch 3-point command, 16-inch command range with 3 command points with expert ambushers. If I go prone as a reaction to an enemy shoot test, I can still move while prone if needed. Grizzled veteran thrown in for their young braves gives them battle hardened and tough as they try to shoot as many bows as they can to inflict fatigue. The free command point from the grizzled veteran also helps offset their low action per activation. Thrown weapons on both units of the braves in case I do have to go into melee. If I am in cover 12 inches away or more and decide to go prone, I have my -3 to my shoot, save, and a +1 to their shoot test, making my save a +3, +2 if I am not prone, or if I am prone, not as a reaction, though being prone does hurt my action economy, of course. All of this should allow me to have more survivors per shooting than my opponent in theory. So this is interesting style of play. I think you can really only do this in Native Americans, where he's really relying on going prone a lot to have his guys survive incoming shots.
If you can't outshoot them, you can outlive them, right? That works too.
In theory. Sometimes, like we said, this is just a dice game.
Mm-hmm.
But I personally, first thing I see on this list that I personally don't like is 4 command points, 4 units. Unless all of my units are inexperienced, I always feel like if I have equal command points to units in the list, I always waste some command points throughout the game that I feel like, well, I paid for it, but I didn't wind up using it, which always feels bad to me. And since this list has a lot of units that have a higher count of models in the units, I personally would break this up into a 5-unit list with Emperor Brim. I've got it where Warrior Musketeers have 7 models, so you have Emperor Brim in with them, and that brings them up to 8. I've given the Braves, I've kept a unit of Braves at 8 models. I split the Young Braves out into 2 units of 6 with inexperienced. That gives you more attacks with your bows. And then I also have a unit of Niasis veteran, 6 models for them as well. You could swap them out for Braves and probably get a few extra models in there if you wanted to.
So 1 more unit of bows and then swap out a braves for a Niasis. So you have more of a veteran melee unit.
Yes.
Nice.
That's my idea of a good list for this. I think I kept in the Grizzled Veteran. That's another thing. I would consider putting the Grizzled Veteran with a different unit as well. Specifically the Braves in this case, if you're putting Emperor Brim with the Warrior Musketeers. I just feel like the Grizzled Veteran would be more at home with the Braves with their 6 resolve versus a 5 resolve for the Young Braves. I don't know what your guys' opinion on this is, but I feel like I've been talking for a while now, so input is good.
That question specifically, you can go either way. You could leave him on the Young Braves and use his rally on other units if you know you're going to be next to him, and then his tough ability is good on the Young Braves because they have the best resolve, so they're more likely to get rid of fatigue through tough with the new nerf tough, which is a rally test rather than an automatic thing. So there's some logic to it, one way of looking at it, but you have to make sure they're near enough. He only has a 3-inch command range for the Grizzled Veteran, so it really needs to be near another unit so who's going to get fatigue, so you can utilize that command point. Otherwise, it is maybe a little wasted. But yeah, it depends on how you want to use that veteran.
Yeah, the way I'm looking at it, I would also put the Grizzled Veteran with the Braves. It looks like the Young Braves are going to be mainly in charge of sitting back and handing out fatigue ever so gently with their bows. So I don't imagine they're going to be up where they'll need something like Battle Hardened as well. Because I noticed that the Braves do have thrown weapons, so I am the fan of putting the Grizzled Veteran with the Braves. Because that's also a nice command rally action if you're in combat to hopefully knock some fatigue off before you swing again or something.
Yeah, and I don't know if he was thinking about like shooting twice with the Young Braves and then rallying for a command point when they activate, but I think you get enough shoots with them. Like what else are you going to use your command points from Emperor Brim for, rather than just shooting extra and just keeping the fatigue off of them and just giving them a couple shots per turn?
Yeah, because he's got very inspiring, so they're more than likely easy to knock that
Yeah.
fatigue off with that 5 resolve. So he should be managing them, in my opinion.
The Very Inspiring is a good combo with the Grizzled Veteran now that Tough is a rally test, because the Very Inspiring is going to let you re-roll that rally test if it's a fail on Tough.
Absolutely.
So it's a good combo.
But yeah, that's my opinions on what I would do to make that list a little bit more playable, a little bit more competitive. I think that is what Dread wants a little bit more from this list, is a little more a competitive kind of fun list that's not super competitive, but you're playing Native Americans. They're one of the more competitive nations in the game, in my opinion. So
I don't know if they're most competitive, but they're definitely a fun nation to mess around with some details and interesting combos on. And they do have a high skill cap, and they're pretty dangerous once you really know what you're doing with them, I feel like.
that's what I'm saying. Like, they're one of the more once you get them down, they become very dangerous.
Yeah.
But thank you, Dread, for the list. That is not saying that original list is bad by any means. I'm just going through some stuff that I would change.
Can I throw out my suggestions?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it's a really great list. I really like the combination of savvy and well-equipped on those Warrior Musketeers in this basic Creek faction, or whenever you have these Warrior Musketeers in the Raise the Black lists, you got to watch out because they have slow reload and they have poorly equipped. So you can give yourself 4 reloads shooting on the club. So this list has scaled that back. So instead of being a liability, it's a major power unit here. You have 11 muskets with no penalty for reloads, with a 6 shoot for only 4 points, which with a lot of elusive kind of special rules. So it's going to be a pain in the neck unit to deal with. It's going to be really powerful. So great combo, well thought out. I also would recommend 5 units. Your strength in this list is durability. They're going to have a hard time rooting you out unless they get the melee. So the smaller unit size isn't that much of a danger, in my opinion. I like running units, more smaller units at least a couple smaller units in natives. If you're looking at 5 or 6 units of natives, and you know they're going to be hard to kill, you're going to have to focus fire on a couple, what you think the biggest threat is. So having a unit of 5 or 6 young braves is not the biggest threat. He's not going to focus fire on that, so that unit's not going to melt away so fast. So I agree, 5 units would be my personal favorite rather than 4. Now, I quickly made a list up. Oh, and another, I think, instead of the Grizzled Veteran, I mean, Grizzled Veteran, you can't go wrong with it. It's always awesome. It's going to be great. But if you want to go a little bit less heavily trod path, an Expert Scout would combo really well with what he's trying to do with going prone and stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
It's only 3 points, and it gives people scouts, which is silly because all of his units already got scouts. But he has 1 command point to go prone or stand, which I don't like going prone. It's really good for not dying, but then you got to stand up again.
Yeah.
And I would encourage anybody, I haven't ever seen a situation where it's good to move while you're prone. In this case, you can move 2 inches in your prone, or you could stand up and move 4 inches instead of going 2 inches at a time when you're prone. Being prone is very dangerous because if you get melee, you're just dead meat. There's no room for error. You cannot get hit in melee while you're prone. It'll be a bad day. It's almost never go prone when you get shaken. Always go backwards because you got to stand up or you got to move forwards. If you go backwards, you're standing, you have some degree of control over your unit, and you're further away, so you're not going to get shot as much. You can even hide behind a blocking piece of terrain sometimes. So prone is a trap. I don't like prone. That element of the what is it? That I'm monologuing again. Sorry. The expert ambushers. I don't like it. Maybe you can find a great way to use it, but I don't like it. I like going prone to not die, but then I want to stand up again pretty quickly unless I know that I'm going to get shot at when I want that save, and I know I don't have any danger of getting into melee. But the expert scout lets you stand up or lay down, which can help mitigate that cost of getting that better save. So you drop, and then you stand back up again. But don't crawl around on your tummy. I don't think it's good.
No, I completely agree with all of that. And I didn't think about the Expert Scout when I was making my list. So yeah, that if you are playing with the going prone and standing up type stuff, I think that is a great choice.
It's fun. It's not super powerful, but it's fun, and it makes you more ready to take that cost of going prone. And no, you can get back up faster.
Well, and I think that's what he wants to play around with this list, is that going prone and seeing what he can do with that. So I think that leans into that more. So I think it's a good choice.
So here's my version of it. Very similar. Emperor Brim, 10 Warrior Musketeers. 11's good too. They're cheap for what you're getting. You're getting really great value out of them. And then I carved out enough space. I'm still at 37 models, but I carved out space to put a sharpshooter on that unit. Then you have the option to use, since you're not earning yourself any extra reloads, it frees up you to maybe use a marksman shot. And you're going to get, if you get the hit with that unit, you're going to take away their cover, which is still worthwhile. So that might be kind of fun. And it doesn't give you a command point, but it still gives you Deadeye and Marksman, plus that deprivation of cover. So that's what I do for the command unit. Then I do a unit of 6 Braves with no thrown weapons as just kind of a basic shoot 'em up unit. And then a unit of 8 Braves with thrown weapons as your melee option. And then 2 units of 6 Young Braves. Or you could do a unit of 6 and a unit of 5 and put a sidearm musket on one of them. You still be at 36 models, which is a nice tidy number for your strike points. You don't want to go below that. Otherwise, you go to 8 models per strike versus 9. And then Expert Scout and a Marksman. You still have a lot of models, big commander, a lot of command points. You got very inspiring. You don't have any tough without the Grizzled Veteran, which is kind of annoying. But you got that massive unit just wrecking people with the Warrior Musketeers. You got the Young Braves controlling the game a little bit with their bows, and you got the Braves doing the hard work of melee when they need it, and they're just good all-rounder. But I think it's a great list as it is, but I would prefer 5 units than 4.
That was my big takeaway. Is I think that commander with the 3 command points, you want more units in that list.
Yeah, you can shoot your young braves once, shoot a move, or shoot twice even if you want that fatigue, and then you can shoot them again with Emperor Brim. So you can easily pump out 5 shots of arrows a turn, which helps stop those guys from wanting to get too close and melee you to death. Which melee isn't this Force's strong point.
Right. Yeah, and he's very inspiring, so I don't think you'll really miss the Grizzled Veteran a whole lot if you take him out.
You have to use some command points to rally, which with the Grizzled Veteran you might never have to do that. So it is a bit of a cost, but
Yeah.
it depends on what you want to do.
Most of the time I treat the Grizzled Veteran with that 3-inch command range. Most of the time you're just going to use it on that unit
It's pretty
anyway.
localized,
So
yeah.
it's pretty localized. Any last minute thoughts, Dan? Did you have a list built out, or
I did not. I kind of like where this went. I think definitely those 2 units of young braves and being able to just kind of pelt with arrows. I think that's the kind of a big advantage. A lot of people tend to sleep on bows. They've never played natives before. They hurt.
Mhm.
They might not kill things, but fatigue sucks in this game, and arrows are really good at laying on fatigue.
keeping up a constant rate of fire onto something is really nice sometimes.
Yeah, unless you're English
Right.
militia, then you die to bows all the time.
And Emperor Brim's command range is so big, 16 inches. If you get that unit of braves up to do its melee job, I mean, hitting on 5s with 3 rolls if you have thrown weapons, so that's not too shabby. You can definitely hit something hard. You just need every unit really has its own job in this force, in my opinion. You got to be careful.
But yeah, thanks for sending us the list, Dread. I hope that helps. And I wish you luck with your endeavors with that list.
I don't want to fight it.
Yeah, I don't think I would either.
Yeah, I'm on that as well. I'd rather not. Thank you very much.
Okay, Dan, I think you have the next list for us.
Yes, I do. I was actually making another list here because I was looking at it and I like it. So I should have done this earlier, but we are so
Mhm.
professional. So our next list that we have coming in is coming from actually a player from Joseph's group, Shadow Fortress. He was looking for a fun thematic list to learn the game with. It's a C list, but he's borrowing a ship, so he's looking for recommendations. One of the points here is that he has a Spanish commander, 16 sailors, 16 militia, and four corsarios. Really good models, by the way. I love the way the corsarios look. They're one of my favorite sculpts. So the original list that we have going here. So it's 100 points, 18 models. He's playing the Guardacostas from Raise the Black. He's got an experienced Spanish commander. I don't see the rule checked on here. He didn't say it. I'm not sure which rule he was looking for. I would assume inspiring, because that seems to be a go-to on that commander. But he's got 6 Corsarios, 5 Corsarios, and then 6 European sailors. And I know he said it was a sea game, so I don't see a ship on here, but he could not have known which ship he was getting at that point in
Yeah,
time.
he
So,
said.
it's kind of a good building block.
Yeah, he said he was building this as a C list, and he was borrowing a ship, so he was looking for recommendations on the ship. So
All right, so the list that Garrett has that he went and built, which totally trust him on because he's our resident Spanish player here, is same thing, Guardacostas. It has been dropped from an experienced commander to an untested standard Spanish commander for 150 points. I think that's fine. The single command point is really good, especially if you're learning. It's one less thing to keep track of if you're just looking at Ruthless and no other rules. And then he has the Balandra here, which is always very good, with reinforced bulkheads. You should always take reinforced bulkheads on those 2 ships. If you're at a demo game, I don't usually take them just for the sake of a demo, but if you're playing and learning, always take reinforced bulkheads, because that -1 to your shoot save is great, and it hurts when you don't have it. I think we can all agree here. When you forget to add it on, you go, "Oh, I don't need it," is usually when your dice go, "Oh, you probably should have brought it."
yeah, I always think of reinforced bulkheads. If I save 2 models on a 6 or a 5, and they would have died before, it's paying for itself.
Happens pretty fast.
Because 3 points, yeah, it's
I think you don't get
it's
too
totally
much
worth it.
self-loathing after the game is done, knowing that you could have saved those.
But yeah, I opened this up to 4 units. I think 150 points. You want to get at least 4 units on this ship. I've got 3 units that are muskets, and so they're going to be sailing the ship and firing the muskets as much as they can. I've got 3 light cannons that the marineros are going to be manning, and then I've got a master gunner with them. I've also got a unit of later filibusters. I just like this unit, and you can take those in the Raise the Black Guardacostas.
I like that. That's good.
Yeah, I want to point out that he has a Spanish commander, 16 sailors, 16 militia, and 4 corsarios. I'm pulling these musket units from the militia. You can absolutely, I know they're militia officially, but just pull them in as corsarios in the later filibusters. They'll be fine. They're a dude with a musket. Don't worry about it.
Yes, I'm inclined to agree with that.
And then I pulled the Balandra in just because it's a great beginner ship. It's out of the box pretty good. If you have a starter set, a 2-player starter set, you're going to have 2 of those sitting around, and it's the cheapest ship that you can just buy off the shelf. So it's great for new players. Do you have any insights into this, Joseph or Dan, as far as lists that you would make?
So I actually just finished mine. I was putting the finishing touches on it because I did the thing. I went and had it all made, then realized I forgot to add the ship. So what I did is, for the most part, it all looks like it is the same. So he said that he had 16. Is that correct? Double checking.
Yeah, 16
Yes,
sailors,
16
16
militia.
militia, and 4 corsarios.
Wonderful. Okay. So, where did it go? Come on. So I tweaked it a little bit. Where is my? There we go. So I kept the same thing that Garrett did: untested Spanish commander, the light cannon ship pair, and the master gunner, and the Balandra. So 3 pairs of light guns, Balandra with that reinforced bulkheads. I just kind of moved some units around. So I, instead of the marineros, I went ahead and added Viscanos and dropped them down to trained. I like that they have a better shoot save, and this is going to be a little crucial in this. And they still have their brace of pistols. So really big fan of that, and I love Viscanos. They're great. I still have a 5-man unit of Corsarios, a 5-man unit of Milicianos Reformados on the back, and then some Jamaican privateers, so you have some excellent musket support. I think that all lines up. Am I over a model? I could be.
No, I think you're okay.
Okay. So I did the Viscanos because they're trained and they still have, dropping down a train, they still have their brace of pistols. That's really important, especially in smaller point games. Melee tends to hurt more, in my opinion. So if you're fighting like a boarding list or something, they still have brace of pistols they can fire if they're charged, which is important. And they still have Ruthless, expert sailors, artillery crew, and I kept the master gunner as well to give them that expert artillery crew, so you get more out of that. Corsarios, I love me some Corsarios. They are kind of like, I call them fighty freebooters. They're not as good at shooting, they don't have marksmen, but if you get Ruthless on, they basically become freebooters for free because you're starting off at that -1 for Ruthless, which is great. I added the Milicianos Reformados to save some points, and if you're running a Spanish force, you're going to have these models anyway. And then I swapped out the later filibusters for some Jamaican privateers, and there's 6 models in there. So those 2 are going to be parked on the back deck. But again, I'm seeing a lot of shooting and muskets, which is something I'm really getting into, on top of your cannons. So I just think that for the amount of points that's there, I like this list a little better. It makes your cannons a little more efficient, less likely to have guys get dead from shooting, and you still get to use your Corsarios and all your musket models, essentially.
So the Viscanos on the cannons until you get to melee. Is that right?
Yeah, I think you're.
Yes. So if you decide to board, your Viscanos have brace of pistols, unlike the Marineros with just blades. So it adds just another layer of, okay, I was trying not to do a min-max thing, but for a nice little Spanish list, I like this, and I like people to play the Elite Sailors too because they're really good. But Jamaican privateers are fantastic. I love them. They're arguably one of the best sea units in Raise the Black. I love them. 4 points, a musket, and they have expert sailors. So if you need to run the rigging at all, they can do that just fine, and they can shoot. And I would put the commander with the Milicianos Reformados because they're inexperienced. And just again kind of gives them more of that action because the master gunner is there with the Viscanos, so they are good on reloading artillery. Yeah, their save is a little weaker. I know it's that dreaded 8 save dropped to a 7, but chances are they're going to be shooting at your musket deck anyway, or your cannon deck anyway. If they're shooting at your cannon deck, they're not shooting your musket guys, or they shoot your musket guys, they're not harassing your cannon guys. So it's a choice your opponent has to make, and they're going to pay for it either way. They're either getting shot with cannons or shot with muskets. Either way, they're getting shot. This is kind of like my first list when I started playing too. I just kind of realized. First time playing, I used Interplogue on guns because I was like, they can do everything for 6 points. That's great.
They can.
Okay, I think
Critique suggestions from there,
no, I think that's a good list too.
Mhm.
and it kind of gives you a little flavor of everything, and then some, little English stuff.
Yeah, some different units that you could throw in there. I see Joseph has built a musket/boarding list, so this is different.
We're all kind of drinking the Benderson Little Kool-Aid right now.
Except no red 40, please. Mine, I'm making it little cut and dry, easy. I build different depending on who I'm building for. If I build my own, I kind of put all this weird stuff in that I want to dink around with. But if I'm building for somebody else, I just want it to be easy to grab a hold of. So this one, it uses all stock units. So your stat card is exactly what your unit is. I'm doing this partly because I gave him all the stat cards for these Spanish. So I know he has them. So it might be helpful. Here's mine, a Bermuda Balandra with upgraded hull, of course. Experienced standard commander with inspiring, because that helps your unit, your whole force function well. And then I got 1 unit of 7 Marineros to sail and board. 1 unit of 6 Corsarios to do the shoot thing. 1 unit of 7 Vizcanos, veteran, to do the boarding massacre. And 1 unit of 7 Milicianos Reformados to shoot. So you have 2 units shooting on your way in. You're just trying to get there fast and board. You got an inexperienced, you got a veteran, you got 2 trained units. You get some interesting interactions with your cards. You can mathematically utilize every card to its best. You have a good chance of getting as much power as possible out of your cards if you're doing this, because inexperienced and veteran units can use diamonds and spades to their best value, and trained units can use clubs and hearts to their best value. So technically, you should be able to get some good value out of it. No cannons, because I wanted it really simple. 28 models should be a good time. Although if you get pushed at range and can't really close to board, you're going to lose a lot of value from your Marineros and Vizcanos. So that's a weakness. But it'd be a simple list to try, and you can shoot a lot and you can board really strong once you get there. But a lot of directions you can go. But there's a lot of directions you can go. And I don't know if he wants to do 150 or 100, but you do need a ship. That's important.
Yeah, it's hard to do 100 points with a ship, or with a sea list, and have it feel authentically Blood and Plunder.
Yes, if you're
get what I
playing a
mean.
C game, you should always start at 150, in my opinion. I mainly play C games. I think 150 is the good starting point. If you want to start doing like smaller actions, you can do more boats at less than 150 points. But if you want to bring a proper ship, I usually say
Actually,
150
I've played
points
some
is where we're
100-point
starting.
games, and they're still really fun. You have a bark, and you have your 18 guys or 12 guys, and it just feels like a little bit different game, and it's actually really fun still. It's more like your Port Royal scale, I guess. Every man matters. If you lose a guy, it hurts a lot, but you're still able to. Everything's just on a smaller scale. I think 100 points is okay, but it is quite a bit different. You have to make harder decisions on what to put in and what to leave out. But I'm okay with 100, but that's a different rant. Sorry.
Yeah. I'm okay with the smaller point stuff. I like playing small scale land games sometimes too. But that, like you said, it's
Your
a little bit
experience.
different of a game. If you're going for the
Yeah, it's
true
just a
Blood and
different
Plunder experience, you
Yep.
got to go to 150. I
or
think.
250.
Yeah, I like smaller point games on land as well. I do like playing those 75-point games with Summer Plunder is always super fun. Shall we go on to the final list? This is more your neck of the woods, pun intended.
I'm on the opposite side of the country. Yes. All right. We have a North American militia. Not very many piratey forces. That's okay. All right. This is from Discord user Inept. There's an inept joke in there somewhere, but this looks pretty good to me. North American English Militia from Fire on the Frontier, using the ranging party rules. A force option, which puts Indian fighters and braves into core, which is fun. Experienced standard British commander. So he has 2 command points with inspiring. Can't go wrong there. Got 8 English militia, 8 Indian fighters, 8 braves, and 8 young braves. This is exactly the kind of list I would make for somebody who wants to try out this faction. This is really good. It's fine. You got 8, 8, 8, 8. This is really easy to keep track of. Nice and balanced. You got an inexperienced musket. You got Indian fighters, tough muskets, and you got braves, kind of sneaky muskets. And you got young braves to drop fatigue on people. What does he say about it? British, French, and Indian war list. Wants a thematic, fun list to learn. Owns English militia starter set. I think that's the North American English starter set that has 8 braves, 8 young braves, and 8 braves and young braves. 2-player starter set and Benjamin Church. Okay, I think this works well. It's not a very subtle list. It just has 2 units, and you go at it. I think that is fine. You could add more characters to make it interesting. Here is another version of it. I think might add some more fun flavor if you want to use your Benjamin Church model. You could use your Benjamin Church model for your commander and just use a standard stats for and not have to pay the points. But if I was you, I would do Benjamin Church, his faction, the Church's Raiders. They're fun. Everybody gains the Ruthless rule. Ruthless is really good at English because they're really good at controlling fatigue. And it also gives the option to, and it has all these same units in core, so you can build the same force, but you just swap out some rules. The North American English Militia rule is really good. Once per turn, a single English unit in the force may re-roll a fatigue test without spending a fortune point. That's really good. It's fun to use. It's fun to decide when to use it. It's always useful. But the Benjamin Church's faction, everybody gets Ruthless. That's pretty good too. Also has the same option to swap out Drilled for Elusive on the English Militia, making them a little more durable. But here's my version. It's definitely, I don't know if it's better, but it's just different. And I love the big commander, so this one uses Benjamin Church. He has very inspiring mobile, which gives everybody quick, which I really love, and superior intelligence. He can, once per game, drop his hand to draw a new one, kind of like the Buccaneers. I find that pretty valuable. And he has 3 command points. And then I put 8 English militia, 6 Indian fighters, a little less, 8 braves. You could swap that and do 8 Indian fighters and 6 braves. Let's do that. And 6 young braves. So a couple less models, but you got a big, huge commander. And the faction rules are really enjoyable. You get very inspiring instead of the English militia reroll of the fatigue test. So you get plenty of fatigue control, but then you can double down on punishing them for having fatigue with Ruthless. That's a quick alternate take on it. I think his version is really good too, and it's really straightforward, easy to keep track of and play. But Church is lots of fun too.
Yeah, I also made a list for him with Benjamin Church as the commander, because as soon as he said he had a Benjamin Church, I was like, oh, well, you should just use that, because that's fun. Using the named commanders is fun. I agree 100% that the list as is very good for a new player and just a solid list in general. Yeah. Good job. I went with New England Militia, and I went with Benjamin Church as the commander, and basically kept all of his same units, just pared them down a little bit. I went with 7 Indian fighters, 7 braves, and 6 young braves.
Scalped them all to get extra points.
And that's really all I changed. Yep, just to fit Church in there. I don't think it really affects the list all that much. I think your list is probably better than mine as far as fun rule interactions, but I don't build English lists all that often, so I don't think about rule interactions with different English factions all that much. But there you go. Yeah, I just think I think it's a very solid list just to begin with, and I think you should carve out a little bit of points to get that Benjamin Church model on the table. If
Play
you
it both
can.
ways, but it's awful fun using those 3 command point commanders with so much power in them. I really appreciate that part of Blood and Plunder. Some people don't like it as much, but it's one of my favorite parts. So I always try to do it if I can.
It's growing on me. I've been playing it a lot more often, and I'm coming around to the named commanders stuff.
I specifically shrunk the Young Braves because at some point for arrows, volume is a diminishing return because you really want fatigue. You know they're going to save a lot of them. So if you're dumping 6 arrows or 8 arrows, they're going to save most of them anyway. So as long as they fail the fatigue, that does the job in most cases. And it's a low threat unit, so it's not going to get targeted and eliminated in many cases. So I'm okay with that smaller unit size on that unit specifically.
Yeah, I agree. Most of the bow units you can always pare down because really all you're looking for is that one hit to get onto the bows. Like that's I count it as a successful bow shoot if I just get one hit. I'm like, okay, well, I'm making him roll a fatigue check. So,
any thoughts, Dan?
Any thoughts on this stuff, Dan?
You kind of built. I was trying to kind of play with it. You kind of built the same thing that I would have, Garrett. New England Militia. Basically, everything stays the same. I like the New England Militia because it gives everybody tough, and Benjamin Church has that wonderful 16-inch range. So basically, you keep everybody else within 16 inches, and they're all going to be, for the most part, saving on that pre-rally check. So I like that. I think again, you want to use your special model. This is a really good way to go.
I think if you wanted to make this better, thinking about it, the New England Militia, it does say English units in this force gain tough. So having the Native Americans in there, yeah. Well, I didn't realize that until just a few minutes ago as well. But if you wanted to pull in more English militia or another like unit of musketeers, probably have tough too. No, musketeers don't have tough. So yeah, if you wanted to pull in musketeers instead of braves, they would get tough, and that would maybe be really good. But
tough with 4 resolve and very inspiring. I ain't no fatigue sticking around for
British
that.
soldiers don't know what fatigue is.
Spanish players hate this single trick.
Podcast title.
Yeah.
And make the thumbnail of Garrett making the O face and pointing at something.
Gotta go viral.
I would not enjoy fighting against those musketeers with any of my Spanish stuff. We're just gonna have to kill them.
They aren't going down.
Very solid list for that last one, though. And once again, thank you for everyone that sent in the list. I think this was very fun. I think we'll do it again sometime. So if you do have a list out there in mind that you want to send in, send me a message on Discord. Send an email to our Blood and Pigment email. Things that we need are what you want from the list, what models you have, and just a generic, where the commander is, what your, where are your characters going, stuff like that, so we know so basically that everybody's on the same page when we're talking about the list.
If you want to DM him in Discord, his working hours are 2 a.m. to 4 a.m.
Good thing that I'm a heavy sleeper.
Yeah, thanks, people.
Or just message Joseph. He doesn't know what sleep is.
Yeah, message Joseph. He's always awake. Do we want to get into announcements? We've got Adepticon coming up. I know I always forget what the date is, but it's late March, 25 through 30. If you're going, you know where it is. It's in Milwaukee this year. We also I am going to be running some games and a tournament at Gen Con this year, and that is going to be late July, early August. Still hammering out the details for that, but we got the events submitted for that. So those should happen And then we've also got the painting contest ongoing. Get your terrain stuff and oak and iron ships in and continue working on those units and forces for later on in the painting contest. Yeah, and ships. I'll maybe have my galleon finished
Nice.
to enter
Yeah,
it.
somebody already entered the galleon. That's awesome. You got competition.
Yeah. I feel like I probably shouldn't win anything since I'm affiliated with the people that are putting on the contest, but I'll still enter stuff.
I'll just send you a trophy that's got a thumbs up on
can
it.
pull some
Okay,
strings to
just
make it
just
pretty,
a sad thumbs up. Just to
Mhm.
just make it the tiniest thing that you can find to put on a large base for a trophy.
Mm-hmm. It'll just say you tried.
Good job. And for more Blood and Plunder content, you can go to bloodandpigment.com and check out all of our material there. We have articles on ships, nations, factions, terrain, painting guides, battle reports, anything you can think of, really. So go check it out.
check check out our YouTube channel as well. We've got another battle report up there, and we'll have another book review out soon. And we're putting up shorts as much as a couple times, maybe once or twice a week, of just play sessions. So if you want to just see Blood and Plunder go by your YouTube feed a little more often, subscribe to our channel there. We just hit 2,000 subs this last month. And you can always throw money at us if you like. If you appreciate our Blood and Plunder content, we have a Patreon account that helps us out with all our expenses. Patreon.com/bloodandpigment.
And as always, keep your dice ready to win at your backyard.